Hello and welcome student to Standard 5th subject How We Came to Be Environment Studies Part 2. Today we will learn our chapter number 9 Settled Life and Urban Civilization Module 2. As in Module 1 we learn about metals and found how the metal was found and also about the trade and the settled life. So, before moving to our module 2, let's do a brief recap of our module 1 Settled Life and Urban Civilization. Let's do a recap of module 1. In module 1, we learn about the three Stone Age period and about scholar Christian Thompson, who has proved this age. Stone Age, Copper Age and Iron Age. Metal means copper, which was used in various tools and equipment. It was also said gold was the first metal, but because of its softness, it was not used further. Potter used the wheel to make their pots more symmetrical and colorful pots. Pots were made in large quantity and humans started to do trade and transportation as the wheel was invented. To get raw materials easily, they started settle the village and started living close to each other. They also made change in old system of transportation. So all this we learn in our module 1. So let's move forward to our module 2. Let's see the learning objectives of our module 2. In this module, we are going to learn about rise of city and script. Signs and symbols had already come into use. Broken pieces of clay, pots found during excavation. Culture developed its own script. Social organization in the ancient cities. The faith system rooted in the agriculture way of life and last about Rosetta Stone. Rise of cities and script. From our part 1 module, we learn that for long distance, human changes the old system of transport. Because of all this, there was rapid transport of goods and center of large scale production. All these factors brought together and people were engaged in different types of work. Rapid changes gave rise to cities. It was necessary for humans to keep their permanent records as the trade was expanding and growing in production. For making them easy and convenient, humans started using signs and symbols in their trade and production work, which helped them to keep all the records. Scholar found signs on broken pieces of clay pots, means pot sheets, which have been found in large number during excavation. These there was increase in trade and production in this period. So the growth in volume. Human kept all records which helped them to keep resulted in much modifications, means for the better. and also made improvement in the sign and symbols, means it would be easy for them to identify. And all culture developed its own script for their records. Social organization in the ancient cities. There was rise in cities because of good production in trade. As we come to know that wheel was invented, and because of that men started doing trade and transport. So it was good production in trade. It is true that rise in trade had been the major factor which contributed to the emergence and development of cities. However, the culture of these cities had built its root in the culture of the village settlement of the New Stone Age. The faith system rooted in the agriculture way of life, which were continued in the urban way of life too. The social life and festival based on agriculture faith system. It became more elaborate in cities and was prosperous because of rise in trade. In New Stone Age, as the cities were increased, so grand temples were built in many cities. Human appoint chief, and the chief of temple became chief or administrator of those cities. Later on, the same position of the temple head and that of the king went to the same individual. All these changes was the beginning of the ancient urban civilization of the world. We'll learn more about them in our next lesson. Do you know, student, what is Rosetta Stone? So let's learn about Rosetta Stone. The inscription you can see on your slide, known as the Rosetta Stone, was discovered in 1799 AD. As the stone is broken, only a section of the original inscription is seen on it. The inscription is in the Egyptian language. Today, the Rosetta Stone is kept in the British Museum in London. At first sight, it appears to have three different inscriptions in three sections. Means on the screen you can see the broken stone. So on that broken stone, the three languages is divided, means three inscription is divided into three section, but actually the inscription consists of the same matter in three different script, mean the three section same thing is written but it is written in different languages. The script is in the topmost section is ancient Egyptian script known as hieroglyph. It means the script of gods. The script in the middle section was used for routine document and is known as the demotic strips. It was simplified form of the Egyptian hieroglyph. The script in the bottom section is Greek. These inscriptions announce the Ascension of the new king Ptolemy fifth to the throne. This inscription has special importance as a source of Egyptian history because it became possible to read the forgotten Egyptian hieroglyphs script with the help of the other script on it. The name Ptolemy's, written in the Demotic script, was read first with the help of the Greek script. So let's learn more about of this script in our next slide. Let's learn more about Ptolemy. His real name was Claudius Ptolemy, but he was known him as Ptolemy. Not much is known about his life. The name Claudius probably means he was a Roman citizen. The name Ptolemy means that he was Greek. It is believed that he lived from 90 to 170 century. They knew that he worked in the library of Alexandrian Egypt from 127 to 150 century. He was an astronomer, mathematician, and geographer. Let's learn about Champollion and Rosetta Stone. So in our previous slide, we learned about it. Let's learn more about John Foransoha. A French teacher, John Foranso Champollion, was able to read the entire inscription. On reading the word Ptolemy's, he realized that other names in the inscription from foreign countries or culture could also be read in the same way. Hence, he first read all foreign names in the inscription and based on that work, prepared a chart of all the hieroglyphs letters. Thus, Champollion succeeded in reading the forgotten Egyptian hieroglyphs script, and John Faransoha Champollion published his first translations of hieroglyphs script in Paris in 1822. There is evidence that copper was in use even 7,000 years ago. In regions where copper was rare, it was not possible to use copper in large quantities. Therefore, people in such regions kept using mainly stone tools and implements even though they knew how to use copper. Copper objects are found at the ancient site in such region but only in very small numbers. Therefore, such sites are called Chalitic age, means Chalitic sites, and not as Copper age. Chalos means copper, lithos means stone. Thus, the age of copper and stone is the Chalitic age. Although copper is harder than gold, it is still too soft for making objects from it. However, when tin is added to it, it becomes sufficiently hard. The mixture or alloy of copper and tin is known as bronze. As people in the New Stone Age had begun to use bronze in the making of various objects, the New Stone Age is also known as the Bronze Age. Metals must be melted to make an alloy. Knowledge of how to melt zinc and tin dates back to almost 1000 years before the making of bronze. Let's learn more about Chalitic Age. It's also known as the Copper Age because begin at around 4500 BC. This age was the age of metals, the discovery of which was a milestone in the growth of civilization. The use of copper was at large, but later it was also mixed other metals that were discovered during that time, which resulted in the discovery of bronze. Indus Valley civilization is the best example in the civilization of Copper Age. The metal was mainly used to make axes, swords, spearheads, etc., used for hunting and farming. Chalitic settlements. The end of the Neolithic period saw the use of metals. The first The metal first used was copper, and several cultures were based on the use of copper and stone implements. Such a culture is called Chalitic, which means the copper stone phases. The Chalitic people mostly use stone and copper objects, but they also occasionally use a low grade bronze and even iron. They were primarily rural communities spread over a wide area with hilly land and rivers. Let's do the quick recap of our module 2. So in this module, we learn about rise of cities and script, wheel, carts and chariot were first used in Mesopotamia. Social organization in the ancient cities, the Rosetta Stone and its script, Chalitic sites not as Copper Age. Metals were melted to make an alloy. So all this we learn in our module 2. Evaluation of module 2. Question number 1. Fill in the blanks. Wheeled vehicles like dash and dash when first to come into use. Answer. Cart, chariots. Second, grand dash were built in many cities. Answer. Temples. Urban culture had its roots in the culture dash of the New Stone Age. Answer. Village settlements. Right, true or false? First, the village of head became the chief administrator of the city. Answer false. The position of the temple had merged into that of the king. Answer true. Write about the consequence of the following events. Discovery of copper. Answer It led to many new inventions and rapid changes, especially the invention of the wheel. Second, knowledge of script. They could keep permanent records of the expanding trade and growing population. Knowledge of script led to the end of the New Stone Age and the beginning of historic period. Answer the following. What was used to keep permanent records? Answer. Script was developed for the purpose of keeping permanent records. Second, what did rise in trade contribute to? Answer. Rise in trade contribute to emergence and developments of cities. Third, why was the need to maintain records felt? Answer. Long distance trade, rapid transport of goods, and centers of large scale production are factors that brought together people engaged in different types of work. Therefore, it became necessary to keep permanent records of the expanding trade and growing population. Give reason. Culture developed its own script. Answer. There was an increase in trade and production and also the growth in the volume of records to be kept. This resulted in much modification and improvement in the sign and symbols used for these purposes. In this way, each culture developed its own script. Thank you, student.